feel like we should get going because we have lots of exciting things planned for this closing plenary, some reflections, some folks to thank. My name is Kiran Mirchandani. I am one of the co-organizers of the RWL12 conference and also a faculty member in the Adult Education and Community Development Program here at OISE at the University of Toronto. It's been a really interesting, invigorating few days, listening to all your talks and all the presentations and the keynotes and the discussions. I've been really pleased to have the chance to connect and reconnect with so many of you. One of the aims of this closing plenary is to award our best student paper. And so I'm going to introduce you to David Bowd, who's going to be presenting this paper. Professor Bowd is, in fact, an active member of the RWL International Advisory Committee and has been for many decades. He's also been involved in research and teaching in adult higher and professional education for more than 40 years, really. He's extremely prolific and has a wide variety of scholarly interests. Several pieces, for example, on the impact of the pandemic already have been published. That he's written or co-written. Currently, David is a professor at the Center on Assessment and Digital Learning at Deakin University, Melbourne, and also professor of work and learning in Middlesex University, London. So I'd really like to welcome David to tell you about the award and present the Best Student Paper Award.
Well, thank you very much, Karen. I'm very pleased to be here and to represent Studies in Continuing Education Incorporated, who are the owners of the journal. Before I announce the award for the Best Student Paper, just a few preliminary comments about the relationship of the journal to the conference. So for the past few conferences, Studies in Continuing Education, which is one of the journals that covers a significant chunk of the field of RWL. Nothing covers the whole field, unfortunately. We've provided the opportunity for RWL organisers to guest edit a special issue of the journal, drawing upon reworked papers from the conference. And I'm very much looking forward to seeing that special issue this year, as there have been some really excellent papers presented. Now, you would have got information through the organisers about the deadline, which is coming up following the conference, for when you need to submit your final paper for the journal. For the less experienced authors amongst you, please keep in mind that you're writing a journal paper, not a conference presentation. But really, today is for the students. And one of the purposes of international conferences is to bring in the new generation, the new blood, the new people that are qualifying as researchers for the first time, and to present their new ideas to the world. In order to encourage that, what we've done over the last few RWL conferences is to offer a prize for the best student paper. And that prize is an acknowledgement, something you can claim on your CV as having achieved, but there's also a little kind of monetary award that goes with it. So the monetary element is 500 Australian dollars. Unfortunately, Australian dollars aren't worth as much as Canadian dollars at the moment, but it's real money. This year, the RWL Best Paper Award was adjudicated by an international panel of 4 senior faculty members who were chosen because they've got a very diverse range of approaches to research, and they're all very active in the field of work and learning. The student papers were anonymised and a blind review process was followed. And each adjudicator assigned a score on the basis of innovativeness, theoretical or methodological soundness, and relevance of the paper for the field. And they noted that this year, the student papers as a whole were excellent and of extremely high caliber. So that's a really pleasing indication for the future. Rather than starting by mentioning the winner, I want to start first with the runner-up. And the runner-up gains an honourable mention. And the runner-up this year is Lisa Mychajuk. You're going to have to apologise for the pronunciation of your name, Lisa. Mychajuk. Please, can somebody please correct me if you have a better pronunciation? Her paper was called Learning Sustainably Through Work in Eco-Villages. And these are some of the things that the reviewers said. They said, this paper breaks new ground in how an inherently learning organisation, that is eco-villages, mediate learning sustainably. Case study work and empirical evidence is strong and impeccably executed and reported. The paper moves forward the learning by doing and in-struggle approach. This is a timely and relevant paper, well referenced and argued with a sound methodology. So congratulations, Lisa, for your honourable mention. Applause all round. So the winner of this year's award for the best student paper is Amelia Merrick. Amelia Merrick's paper is called Perpetuating Precarity in Theory and in Practice, a case study of work-integrated learning in the non-profit sector in Northern Canada. And I was privileged to share my slot, my paper slot with Amelia. And so I've actually seen her present this, which is an excellent paper. Now, the reviewer's comments said that this is an extremely well-designed and critical exploration of the design and practice of work-integrated learning in non-profit organisations in Northern Canada. The capabilities theoretical approach was used to identify dominant features and systemic limitations of current work on work-integrated learning programs in non-profits. The sensitive method inquiry includes inductive and deductive coding, concept mapping, triangulation, and intuitive listening. From the perspectives of educators based in a diverse array of NPOs, the study documents how operational restrictions, a fragmented theoretical environment, a lack of professionalisation, and weak social partners all serve to compromise the current design and delivery of work-integrated learning initiatives in non-profits. The paper provides an effective framework for much needed studies in this field. So, thank you very much, Amelia, for submitting your paper, and thank you, and I'm very appreciative that you've won the prize. And Kieran will let you know how it will get to you. So thank you very much indeed. And that's all the exciting prize winning element of the final session. So I'd like to hand back on to Peter.
Sure. Thank you, David, for your explanation. I want to give a chance first to Lisa Mychajuk, to say a few words if she could. No problem, David. Lisa, could you come onto the screen as a runner-up to the prize, and then maybe we'll hear from Amelia in a second. Lisa, can you come up?
Hi, Peter.
Hi, I know you're not feeling well.
No, on the mend, for sure. But I have another little one sick in the other room. So, yeah, I can't start my video, I think, but you can hear me. This is totally unexpected, I have to say. So, I don't have any words prepared or anything like that, but I did want to say thank you so much to everybody who chose my paper for the honorable mention. And I was listening there to what David said that the reviewer said, and you know, feeling very quite moved by that, actually, that it was so well received. You know, I didn't really go into my dissertation work thinking about being a workplace learning researcher. it's kind of, it developed throughout both the course of my studies and once I really started to get into the analysis of the data for my dissertation. And yeah, and it continued to develop. It's been a bit of a long process for me. And actually writing this paper for this conference gave me yet another opportunity to think about what the data and what I was seeing through my case study work through the lens of workplace learning theory. So yeah, it was timely in that way. I'm just finishing up my writing now. So it was a very helpful process. And again, I'm grateful for that opportunity and for the recognition. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You're a trooper, Lisa. Thank you very much. Now I'd like to bring in Amelia Merrick, the winner of this year's award. Wow, she looks like you're on the road, Amelia. Amelia, do you have anything you could say? Can someone unmute her, if possible?
There we go. I think, is it unmuted? I want to say thank you as well. I'm just I'm blown away, didn't expect this. I'm so grateful that we had the opportunity for this conference to share the results of my research. I've now completed my PhD and I had an amazing committee who helped me think in a scholarly way about what I think is a really important topic. And I think that the results of the research are really important for us as educators, as workplaces, and as citizens to think about the broader framing of how we learn and where we learn and what contributes to our learning. So I would like to say thank you to my committee and to folks who have supported the nonprofits who helped me to think rigorously along the way. And this prize is certainly a surprise. But hopefully it will also help me speak more broadly about why it is really important to invest in epistemic knowledge and professionalism in particular ways that support nonprofits, and how important the work of nonprofits is. Hopefully that will help me to continue to do that. So thank you for the pressure to keep on speaking up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lisa and Amelia, for taking time to come. I know you're both, it was challenging to be here today, and I appreciate you doing that. I want to thank David as well. Just another little extra thank you to David for all his efforts to secure this award, to link RWL with the Studies in Continuing Education Journal, and for all his work over the years in the International Advisory Committee of the RWL. He's helped make it what it is for these 23 years so far. And also want to thank Kieran for basically managing the review process so well for the Best Paper Award, because it's the review process that makes it all the more meaningful to students and everyone. Okay, so now as we haven't regularly done, we have regularly done in RWL conferences at the conclusion, we give a portion of the closing plenary to a set of registrants who have generously agreed beforehand to keep notes and offer some closing observations about the event from their own perspective. And there's two people who have generously offered to be with us to do that and speak to you for a short period of time, just kind of give impressions. First, an experienced RWL conference goer, Professor Presha Ramsarup. She's from the University of Witwatersrand, South Africa. She's also a co-chair of the RWL10 conference in Grahamstown, South Africa, previously 2017, I believe. Presha, can you offer some observations, some comments, and please be gentle?
Hi, Peter. Hello, everyone. And thank you very much for this opportunity. Just to start, I mean, the road to RWL12 has been a long one, and we were so looking forward to visit you in Toronto. So I just wanted to acknowledge the local organizing team. I'm sure it hasn't been an easy road, even though it was a long one. And to say thank you for your patience and your tenacity in putting together what I think has been a very productive and interesting conference. I've really enjoyed it. I love our RWL. In many ways, it's always been productive for me intellectually, as well as professionally and personally. I've learned a lot in my academic journey through this conference. So yet again, I think I had the opportunity to engage with different researchers, different ideas, and I just want to share some of the things that have stood out for me. One that is, I guess we were expecting it and we've seen it emerge in almost every conference, but RWL was no different and probably more, was the emergence of the multiple forms of blended learning that we are now left with in our work and learning environment. And I have to say, probably my standout line, takeaway line from RWL12 is going to be the blended way is here to stay, which I think was from one of our Singaporean colleagues' presentations earlier, or 2 days ago. But I think that all of this work and research around blended learning and how people are looking at their practices online has left some important questions for us on how we critically examine the ways in which connectedness are being understood, the way in which connectedness is being enacted and regulated in work and learning practices. And it's raised for me a couple of questions that I think we should think about. What kinds of dilemmas and possibilities are we starting to navigate in our professional practice as we use blended learning approaches? And what does it raise? And I think there are multiple people in their presentations have started to open the question around boundaries and online learning and what kind of boundaries are enacted as well as navigated in this transition to online learning. Likewise, in terms of identities and work identities, employer identities has been an important domain of research for us, and what practitioner selves are being enacted in online learning interactions. I was also listening to some of the other day, and I think that it's also raising several questions around knowledge, what knowledge is being produced and circulated, what becomes valued and undervalued, what has been most powerful, what does it mean for our traditional notions of disciplinary knowledge and powerful knowledge? So those are some of the kind of questions that, as I've been listening to people, I think people are starting to, the whole shift and transition to online learning is people are starting to grapple with and work with. And I think it's opened multiple questions around forms of knowledge, what we're seeing as knowledge, workplace learning, and how education and work systems are dealing with different forms of knowledge, multiple meanings of workplace learning, and the kinds of questions those are raising. And then the important thing, I see James Avis is here, I really enjoyed his session as well. I think it's looking at one of the things that emerged for me as well is the broadening of ideas on what we perceive as work and what we perceive as workplaces and what we perceive as the notion of the job, to integrate framings that go beyond paid and unpaid work, which we've heard a lot of in the last few RWLs. But in this conference, there, I noticed a lot more thinking around issues of precarity, informality, non-standard employment, issues of regenerative work, and there's a definite decentering of waged and salaried employment in the kind of work that people are doing. So I think there's some very interesting work emerging within the RWL broader community, and I've really enjoyed engaging with it. So my parting shot from some of the work that we're doing is work in learning research is inherently framed within an economic rationale, and work and learning researchers need to challenge themselves to see this as only one strand of, alongside sustainable development, social inclusion, and other bigger priorities. And as work and learning researchers, we've always worked with the idea of the relationship between work and learning. And what I think is starting to show is that what's missing in that relationship is living. People need people need to live. So the relationship between living, working, and learning, and we hear that in different forms starting to emerge. And I think that as people start to re-examine the relationship between living, working, and learning, and I've heard different people bring it in different ways, there are different questions that are starting to emerge. From this angle then, how do we reconceptualize what skills do we need to learn for what type of work and for what lives? And how do we conceptualize these lives as being lived both with other humans, but with other species and with the planet and things like that? So those are some of the things that I think that we need to be thinking about as work and learning researchers as we move forward. And some of the questions I would leave you with then is, as we think about our research, how do we avoid the trap of an economistic framing within our work and learning research? How do we think about, conceptualize, and implement transformative work and learning research that effectively responds to the need for ecological sustainability, justice, as well as equity? And what does that mean for methodology? What does that mean for the research methodologies that we use? And importantly, important thing that we were struggling with at our 2 a.m. panel the other day is, and what could this mean for units of analysis? And especially when we're looking at units of analysis for co-engaged generative research that we want to transform work and learning spaces. So those are some of my thoughts about what RWL12 has made surface, the thoughts and questions that it surfaced in my head from listening to the different people. So thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to RWL13. Thanks, Peter. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Pesha. You covered a lot of ground there. I want to go next to instead of an experienced RWL conference goer, a first-time RWL attendee. I believe it's first time, and that's Dr. Paula Rowland, scientist at the University of Toronto's Wilson Center, also associate professor, Department of Occupational Science and Occupational Therapy, University of Toronto, Canada. Paula, can you share a few thoughts with us, please?
Yes, thank you for the invitation, and you are correct. This is my first time attending, although I've been wanting to come for years. So thank you for your persistence and planning and making it happen. It was a wonderful event, and it was so wonderful to see so many students, to see their work being elevated and introduced, and the integration of the community. That was wonderful. I really value the opportunity to have this international community. That's what I always hope for in conferences, and that was certainly possible. But also the local community. So yes, I'm at University of Toronto. I'm at the Wilson Center. We're interested in health professions, education, and practice. And I was amazed by how much I was learning is happening within my own university context, within Toronto, and the kind of connections that are being made there. This conference also helped me open up my world beyond the healthcare work and healthcare workers. And so I was able to hear about the work of police, civilian investigators, accountants, work within the business domain, professional development within teachers. And what I was struck by is the commonalities across industries, how some of the same tensions exist, the same paradoxes, the same polarities, the same pushes to how work is changing, and what we can learn crossing industries. So I was really thankful for that. I think I was noticing a strong emphasis on professional work, but I rely on other people to tell me whether that's a new emphasis. And I think a really authoritative source, Dr. Livingstone, said today that he's noticed a trend. And so that was also really interesting for me to see and to think about, and the implications for how work is changing. The strong emphasis on social justice and how it was showing up in so many different places and spaces was both inspiring and provocative, and thinking about how these concepts live, how so much momentum has been generated in the last few years, and where that might translate into actual transformative change. And really heard that highlighted in today's keynote. I was also struck across the sessions, this real sensitivity to ironies, to polarities, to paradoxes. And so I think we really heard that in the keynote today about this irony about the way work is changing, how the economy is changing, and who's benefiting from these changes at the same time that there's an ideology around diversity, and how those paradoxes show up and what that might mean for how we think about work and learning. I was not sure, this is one of my first conferences since 2000 or 2020, and I wasn't sure how the pandemic would show up today and throughout the conference. And it seemed, it was always there. So I heard about it in terms of how people were talking about how their research was impacted or how some of their questions were changing. But it wasn't a dominant focus. And there was something really reassuring about that, because there was a continuity about what kind of research and questions remain important and how we might see them differently now through the pandemic as a portal. And thinking about how things that have been long-standing became not necessarily more entrenched, but more obvious to the general public. So questions, some of the fractures in our society and how they're being lived through, and how that they're persisting and maybe accelerating, particularly in the world of work. So I very much appreciated that lens. Some of the things that I was thinking about in terms of what's coming next, really enjoyed a presentation thinking about climate emergency and how do we learn to become sensitive to and to be affected by. And I imagine that needs to be an ongoing conversation. I think all of our dynamics of work and of learning are going to be impacted, and the kinds of risks that are associated with climate emergency are not equitably shared across the world. So I think that this is another kind of collective experience that we need to wrestle with. And then along that, these changing notions of work and what it means to work. And thank you for those previous comments. I hear that there. Some of the other pieces I kept hearing as we're moving further and further into more digitized workplaces, and what that means for identity, what that means for expertise, what that means for how dynamics of accountability are distributed, what that means in terms of status, and what kinds of knowledges are valued, and what kind of new silos are being created as our futures are being reimagined. And I'm really struck by sociologist Ruha Benjamin. I'm a super fan of her work, but she talks a lot about that, about who gets to imagine the future, and whose imaginations are prioritized, and how can we pursue together this sense of more justice, and particularly a virtual and a viral justice. So I was quite inspired, very thankful, and I hope this is the beginning of many more conversations.
Thank you very much, Paula. I just feel between Pressure and you, we picked and they agreed to we picked the right people, in the sense that it was very substantive what you both shared with us. Thank you very much. There's a natural extension to the next speaker here. Paula mentioned how many student researchers we saw at the conference. And at this point, I'd like to ask one of the leads of the graduate student meetup session, which you might have seen on your program, Asmita Bhutani, to give a brief report from that gathering, as this was the first gathering of that type in an RWL series, so it's somewhat historic. Asmita?
Yes, first of all, I am kind of getting flashbacks to our previous conference in Germany in 2019 when we did this session during the afternoon. Scorching heat at that point. So anyway, just a little bit background to the meetup. Grad students in the organizing committee were quite intentional to create a community of students that could keep us and our scholarship connected in the context of the isolation of the pandemic, but also grad life in general. Shout out to Kiran for being our co-conspirator in this. We had the very first ever grad student meetup at RWL on day 2 of the conference, which was yesterday. We had 20 students who gathered for this, also from all kinds of time zones: Melbourne, Nepal, Johannesburg, Hong Kong, Finland, where not. And we formed quite spontaneous connections to the effect that we already have a timeline of events planned until the fall of 2023, including content-focused sessions like identities in work, methodologies in researching work and learning, and more exciting stuff. And we've been able to figure out ways to stay connected. So I guess that's very exciting. And in case you're a grad student who couldn't attend that meetup and would like to connect, please feel free to write to the conference email ID. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Hearing from Pressure, Paula, and now Asmita is, of course, a type of a proxy method of getting feedback, hearing back from people at the conference, but it's only a proxy method. Feedback from each of you, the audience members, is extremely important to us, and we want to make, and we've made available to you an RWL conference feedback form on a link, which can be found on the last what's coming up email that would have been sent to you last evening. Well, I shouldn't say it that way. About 10 hours ago, no, 12, 14 hours ago. So look for that link there. If you don't see it, email the general RWL12 email and we can send you the link. So please contact us. The survey will stay open for a week though. We'd really like, if you'd like to, you can complete it later. We urge you to do so. It provides valuable information to us as well as for the RWL13 2024 conference organizers, fundamental to them. As we near the end of this plenary and the end of the conference, let me just give one last set of administrative reminders before turning to a set of thank yous. First, if you haven't noted this in the documentation sent already, the recordings of all sessions, papers, and keynotes will be made available to registrants by an emailed link after we've had time to download and process the materials. Should take a week or so, a week or more, but shortly. The recordings of all sessions is obviously a major bonus of the online event, as it allows access to all the presentations you may have missed. These recordings will be available to registrants for a 3-month period. So make use of that. Second, you're reminded that in the coming months, the co-chairs of RWL12, this is something that David Bowd referenced earlier in the session, are beginning the editing process of the special issue of the journal Studies in Continuing Education based on the conference theme, Work, Learning, and Social Change. And we will be releasing a call to registrants to submit a 1,000-word proposal for consideration in this regard shortly following the conference. There'll be more information provided to you. In these submissions, bear in mind that the orientation to our conference themes, work, learning, and social change, is absolutely crucial for consideration. And as David Bowd said, the production of a right and proper conference paper is also part of that process too. Selected authors will then be asked to submit revised versions of their paper for full independent blind review. So please consider this an option for releasing your work to the broader research community. Okay, I feel like I'm speaking very fast. Somebody just sent me something. We're a little over time, but please bear with me for this last set of thank yous. Really, we all of us, really everyone here owes some thank yous to some people, and I just want to recognize them publicly in this forum. So on behalf of myself and co-chair Kieran Murchadani, who is a delight partner in this, very dependable. First, I'd like to thank the International Advisory Committee of RWL for having faith in the Toronto Organizing Committee to attempt this event, and especially for its ongoing encouragement through all the challenges and uncertainties of the past 3 years. So thank you, RWL International Advisory Committee. Second, a great big thank you to the registrants, people attending here and who couldn't attend or are sleeping somewhere. Great big thank you to the registrants who managed all the challenges of a new platform environment, often new to each and every one of you, but you joined us, you had faith in the conference, and you contributed your insights to the research community, and we thank you very much. A special thank you to our keynotes. Once again, our keynotes are not only leading intellectuals, but they were also some of the nicest, most patient, and dedicated people to work with. 2 of them stayed on with their commitment to us even after postponements and false starts. Another joined us in a squeeze when a previous keynote experienced a serious health issue. Stephen, Shan, Adia, thank you. There can be no doubt that the 3 of you were major reasons why people joined us at the conference in the first place. Here at the local level, there are many other thank yous. I'll keep it as contained as I can. First, thank you to the Associate Dean of Research Office here at the Ontario Institute of Studies in Education, the University of Toronto, who provided supplementary funding for the event, especially to help us cope with the postponements over the COVID period. Second, I must thank the Education Commons Unit. That's our term for our technical assistance department in our unit here. It was a great, they showed great patience in teaching us as an organizing committee and assuring us over and over again that yes, we could give this online conference platform a try. Andrea, Chandra, and Neil, thank you each for your help, and especially for all the time you devoted to us, Andrea. Andrea spent months with us. You're all 3 of you fundamental to the success that we've all experienced and enjoyed in this conference. Importantly, I must thank the volunteer session moderators. They attended training. You all met them in your paper presentation. They all attend several training sessions. They worked their way through a guidebook that seemed a little bit like the size of War and Peace, and were essential to the daily activities, as you all know. Alyssa, Arian, Asmita, Darlene, Edward, Elizabeth, Justin, Marianne, Sarah, Ishin, Sheldon, Shirla, George, Emily, Virginia, Saskia, as well as Kieran and Armeg, all moderated, and we couldn't have done this without your perseverance, your positivity, skill, and care. Last but not least, and I'm about to finish here, so bear with me. Last but not least, I thank our volunteer local RWL12 organizing committee members. The RWL12 conference design began with before the existence of COVID, if we all could imagine that. And the local committee assembled itself over 2 years ago, experiencing stops, starts, restarts, restops, restarts, and it is truly a wonder that all of the members continued with us over this period. Justin Holloway, Alyssa Cherry, Dr. Sheldon Bromfield, a recent graduate from our program, Amani Hitamana, Asmiti Bhutani, and Armeg Adurian. A heartfelt thank you on behalf of Kieran and I, and all the registrants, really. I must, however, single out our co-coordinators. There were two people who played a special role on the committee. Asmita and Armeg's long hours, late nights, and overall dogged persistence was irreplaceable. In the dark days of the emergence of the additional waves of COVID, in my heart, I was considering canceling this conference altogether. I think I had it up to here with it. But it was Asmita and Armeg who reached out in the evening to me one night and said, let's give this thing a try. Let's have another talk about it. And because of them, we kept moving forward. The registration for the conference has Asmita Bhutani to thank. Thanks for the design, functioning, and troubleshooting, and overall presence and persistence, as well as the training of the moderators. Thanks to Armeg Adurian is owed. Over the last 2 weeks in particular, Armeg has been my partner in crime in the technical, what's called the back channels of the whole platform and technology. She seemed to never sleep, and we all owe both Asmita and Armeg a great deal. Okay, so I'm exhausted, and I know that because I'm getting verklempt. Okay, these thank yous officially end our closing plenary for the RWL12 conference. Rest assured the talks are already underway, and I'm not just kidding about this, with local organizers a continent away who are enthusiastically aiming to start the next quarter century of the conference series with RWL13 in 2024. We'll be happy to keep you informed as soon as definitive news is available. In the meantime, it's wonderful meeting all of those I've been able to, and I wish you well. And I hope to see you at the next conference and that your experience was a good one. Thank you, and that's all for this conference. We're going to give it a bit of a pause, and we'll let Neil then gently take us out of this final session, only about 9 minutes over. We appreciate you attending. Thank you very much.